Is AI really that big a deal for the future of our work? According to a new Harvard Business School paper from 9 authors, including leading AI expert Ethan Mollick, the answer is a resounding yes. This paper is titled Navigating the Jagged Technological Frontier: Field Experimental Evidence of the Effects of AI on Knowledge Worker Productivity and Quality. And this paper details a multi month experiment where these researchers worked with BCG to gauge how AI is transforming knowledge work. Now, I'm going to quote Malik on some of the results here. And Ethan, as a reminder, was a speaker at our Marketing AI conference this past year. He says, quote, "There's a ton of important and useful nuance in the paper, but let me tell you the headline first. For 18 different tasks selected to be realistic examples of the kinds of work done at an elite consulting company, consultants using ChatGPT 4 outperformed those who did not by a lot on every dimension, every way we measured performance. Now, this included tasks like creative tasks, analytical tasks, writing and marketing tasks, and tasks related to persuasion, which a consultant might be asked to do for a client. So, specifically, Malik and the team of researchers found that consultants using AI finished 12.2% more tasks on average, completed tasks 25.1% quicker, and produced 40% higher quality results than those who didn't. Now, what's interesting here is this study also showed that when people used AI for tasks that it wasn't actually good at, they were way more likely to make mistakes and put way too much trust in AI. So the key, says Malik, is being good at judging when AI is good or bad at a task. Malik actually says that some of the consultants in the study just weren't good at doing this, and they suffered in their performance as a result. Others, however, navigated that dynamic really well. And he says they're, quote, acting as what we call cyborgs or centaurs, moving back and forth between AI and human work in ways that combine the strengths of both. I think this is the way work is heading very quickly. Now, Paul, there's a lot to unpack there, but what do you see as these findings meaning for knowledge workers?
I think it's the start of what we're going to see is a lot of more formal research into the impact. So we've theorized about the impact on knowledge work a lot on this show. I get asked all the time about the impact on knowledge work, how quickly, how big, and what we've lacked is like the empirical data behind it. So I think it's important because it starts to show what we have in many cases made assumptions about. When we look at it, when I project out that I think it's going to affect millions of jobs in the next 18 months, I try and do it at a micro scale. Like I'll sit there and run thought experiments of like, okay, I have a team of 50 writers. I use these tools. It takes the average writer 4 hours to create an article. Well, with these tools, it takes 2 hours. So you run through all these different use cases, and then you stack those use cases across an entire department or team, and you come away with, well, we don't need as many humans. Not that like writing jobs are gone or SEO jobs are gone or email jobs are gone, but like we don't need as many people to do the same level of output. So the options are you're going to increase what you do, you're going to just make more of the thing, or you're just going to use less people to create the same level of output. Like those are pretty much the only two options. And so the way I've looked at all of this is that, well, each company is going to have a choice. They're either going to produce more of the thing or start a new thing to redistribute people to, or they're going to choose to take the cost savings and just have less people doing the work. So I think that studies like this become very important to try and start making much more tangible conversations around what is the real impact going to be, and to expand it. So if you haven't read, I mean, Ethan's post is a great summary. We'll put Ethan's post in the show notes. The actual study itself is like 58 pages long. Great use case to test it and throw up at Claude 2, upload the PDF to Claude 2 and have it analyze it for you. But what they did is they took 758 BCG consultants, so 7% of their consulting force, and they were allowed to use GPT-4 with no special fine tuning or prompting and some very basic training in essence. And then they did a bunch of pre-testing and surveying to establish baselines. And then they asked the consultants to do this wide variety of work for a fictional shoe company that BCG kind of devised to represent an actual BCG client. So this is kind of how the process works, so you get a sense of kind of what went into this study.
So if I'm a knowledge worker listening to this or reading the paper, it occurs to me like, how do I actually start putting this into practice in my own career? Like, it sounds like this ability to move back and forth between AI and human work in ways that kind of combines the strengths of both is really, really important for careers moving forward. So, like, what skills should I be thinking about to get good at that?
Yeah, let me go through a couple of the other things that jumped out to me. Maybe we'll back into this answer because it is, it's the thing we're all trying to figure out is like what matters moving
Hmm.
forward. So, a couple of things he said that stood out to me is AI is weird, which is something Ethan says all the time. That no one actually understands the full range of the capabilities of these large language models because there is no instruction manual. So
Hmm.
the testing and experimentation with the tools. So in terms of a skill needed right now, you need the skill of being able to run lots of experiments and being analytical and being strategic and being curious. Like, so the reason Ethan can talk authoritatively about this is he has spent the last 9 months testing these things and building use cases and testing prompts and experimentation. And like, that's it. Like, that's what made him an expert in this thing. And so I think for moving forward, that is one of the most important things is the curiosity and the willingness to experiment and then share with your team what you're finding. The other thing he talked about is again this deep realization that these things are imperfect by nature. So he gave the example of writing a sonnet. It is amazing at writing a sonnet, way better than I would be. But if you asked it to do it in 50 words, it can't because it
Hmm.
doesn't actually know word counts. It thinks in tokens, like fragments of words. So it's really hard for it to do that. It's also hard for it to do math, like, but it's really good at ideation. So there's like, it's the discovery of what are they actually good at. And you can't figure that out without experimenting yourself. Um, the other thing I thought was interesting is they talked about that the consultants who weren't as skilled kind of leveled up with this technology more. So
Hmm.
the most skilled people saw a boost, but it was the people that were kind of probably more like mid-level in their capabilities, they saw the greatest increase. So it works as this weird like skill leveler where it really raised. They said the consultants who scored the worst when we assessed them at the start, so in the benchmarking phase, had the biggest jump, 43% when they got to use the AI.
Hmm.
And so that's he talks about like not and he says, I do not think enough people are considering what it means when a technology raises all workers to the top tiers of performance. The other thing they talked about is this whole idea of like not knowing what it's capable of and not knowing where its flaws are is the people who came to rely on it too much, what they called kind of falling asleep at the wheel. They
Hmm.
made more mistakes than normal because they assumed it was good. It's like I think of this like the self-driving car. I know my Tesla makes all kinds of mistakes. So you keep both hands on the wheel and you're paying attention at all times. Just because it's driving itself doesn't mean you're checking email. But if you don't know that, you get in a Tesla the first time and nobody tells you that. You're like, oh, full self driving, amazing. You click it, you go, and you start checking your phone and whatever, and the thing crashes. You had no idea that it actually wasn't perfect. Like you assumed it's called full self driving. It drove you. That's not what it does. So this understanding of the technology becomes really critical. So I just think that where we go in the future and what matters right now, what we know is being able to work with these tools, figure out what they're capable of, and then maximize the value you can create with the use cases it's really good at. There are going to be things it's not good at. And that's the whole jagged frontier is like, we don't actually know what's within its capabilities and what's outside of its capabilities. And so for the foreseeable future, figuring those out and then applying them in your company, saying, okay, it's really good at summarization. What are all the places we do summarization?
Hmm.
It's really good at transcription. It's really good at writing transcripts, like video transcripts, like or scripts. Like, what are the things it is really good at? And let's double down on those. And I think that's what really the frontier looks like right now, and the people who are going to get the most value out of these tools.
Yeah, and based on my own observation and experimentation, people throw around this word intrapreneur to talk about employees that have that kind of business owner mindset and are
Yeah.
treating their role as if it is a business with a bottom line and a goal and a mission to meet. And I think that mentality just lends itself naturally to this type of experimentation, where if you are viewing things with an entrepreneur mindset, even if you're not an owner of a company, you're really going to back into this much more easily, I think, where you're going to say, oh, okay, of course we have to run experiments. Of course we have to double down on what's actually driving performance, et cetera. So that's really, really helpful in my experience.
Yeah, and we do get asked all the time, like, "What are the careers of the future?" And, it's not a cop out for me to say, "I don't know, go figure it
No,
out." Like, you
right.
find your own career path. Like, it takes being a domain expert in your field and understanding what these things are capable of. And once you connect those dots, like, now you can figure out what is the career path. Again, is it an AI ops role to help other people figure this out? Is it an AI educator where you're teaching people about these things and running workshops? Like, there's all kinds of career paths to be defined, but I haven't really seen a great paper yet that says what those are gonna be.
Hmm. So to kind of wrap this up, I am curious, do you have any thoughts on the flip side of this equation? What should companies and leaders be looking to hire for as it relates to kind of skills that Malik is outlining here?
Yeah, I think it does go back to just, seeing what people are capable of and what their comfort level is with these technologies.
Mm,
And, I go back to when we were hiring at the agency all those years, we were looking for good writers. And so we would give them writing tests. Well, writing tests are useless now. And so now when we hire at the institute, we still do a writing test, but
mm,
we also have them do prompting within GPT-4 or whatever tech we're guiding them on, and we want to see how the prompts, how they developed their prompts, how they improved on it, how they kind of communicated with the chatbot, and then like have them compare an actual writing sample versus the machine writing sample. What did it do better? Like, you're looking for people who can infuse AI into their work and be comfortable with it and want to seek more knowledge about how to continually improve there. What you don't want to do is hire someone who's like, I don't want to use those tools. Like, okay, that's just not going to fly. So right now, I mean, you're really just looking for people who are curious and motivated to solve for the future and help kind of figure it out together, what it looks like.